All set, Holly.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 9:02 a.m. Stephanie, will you please take attendance?
Yes, thank you. Adrian Cochran,
Present.
Andrea Comer,
Present.
thank you. Ellen McKitterick will not be joining us today. John Scott, I don't believe has joined us yet. Mike Fultis
Present.
and Holly Williams.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank any members of the public for joining in this morning. We're going to start with a review and approval of the December 19th, 2023 meeting minutes. I ask the committee for a call to approve.
Move to approve the December 19, 2023 meeting minutes.
Thank you. And a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention, as I was absent.
Thank you. We'll note that. Anyone else? All right, the motion carries. Dave is going to lead us in a budget review of spending to date.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you.
All right, we can see your screen, Dave.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to go over the results for the month of and through the month of December today. So we'll get right down to it. For the operating budget, our spending for the month was $1.5 million. And that was almost $54,000 ahead of budget in terms of spending. Our overall budget was ahead by $102,000. And that's because we are almost $49,000 ahead of budget due to fund recovery penalty revenue coming in. So we're pleased that our fund recovery efforts are still doing well. And actually, as a matter of fact, starting next month, we are going to be utilizing the services of an outside fund recovery agency. And so we're excited about that, and we will report on the results of that in future meetings as they develop. But going back to expenses, our significant expenses for the month were the usual. Payroll and benefits were $902,000. IT software licenses was $274,000. That did create a negative variance of $236,000, but that is a timing difference. We paid the Salesforce invoice a month earlier than was budgeted. And that's because for a lot of software now, we are on the same timetable as the state. We are utilizing the state's buying power to get more competitive costs. So since we're paying as the same time the state is, that created a negative variance. In fact, for the year, our negative variance is $514,000, but I don't want anyone to be overly alarmed about that because that's because of the Salesforce invoice I mentioned. Also, MuleSoft, which we paid earlier in the year, which we actually thought we were going to be paying a few months from now. When we had the budget a few months ago, well, almost 9 months ago at this point. But by the end of the fiscal year, that should mostly all come out in the wash. We will have somewhat of a negative variance due to the higher tier we needed for our fund recovery software because the activity is going so well. But you will definitely see this variance decrease in the next few months. Other significant expenses were a contact center at $128,000, our outreach efforts at $92,000. Moving on to our bond activity, we spent almost $16,000 in bond activity for the month on fund recovery as we continue work on those efforts. Year to date, the spending is about $99,000, less than, sorry, more than what we anticipated. But again, that was a timing difference due to the website redesign and replatforming work, more of it being done in the current fiscal year than the prior fiscal year than we anticipated. Bond funds that are available to us are at $2.4 million of the $16 million that was allocated. So we spent almost $13.6 million so far, and we'll be using some more of that in the coming months as we continue work on fund recovery and other projects. Contribution activity for the month was a negative $34 million. That did result in an almost $4 million negative variance. That was due to the benefits paid, but that was because this was one of the months where we paid 5 weeks of benefits. When we budget, it's budgeted more on a monthly basis on an average month. But since this was one of those months we had 5 weeks, we paid more than anticipated, and that was the main driver of the variance. Other activity we had during the month, contribution revenue was $632,000, less than the $2.2 million we had budgeted, which did create a net negative variance of about $1.5 million. However, that was partially offset by, number one, our fund recovery efforts of $138,000, and also our investment income, which continues to earn money at a higher rate than what we budgeted, and that was $625,000. Having said all that, for the month of December, year to date, we are still running a positive variance of over $18.8 million for the year, and are having positive variances in all of the categories. As far as how much money we have in the contribution account, we have over $530 million as of the end of December. Our balance sheet, we have over $547 million of assets. Most of that is in short-term investment funds, $517 million there. Like I usually say, that's our largest asset, and there have been no significant variations in any of the other categories on the balance sheet. Moving on to year-end projections, we expect to be at a, for the year, it'll be a negative $1.6 million. Again, I remind everybody before there's any concern about that, that is because we didn't transfer $5 million in the first quarter of this year, and you'll see that that offsetting variance reflected in the contribution budget in a minute. But we had enough money in our operating funds, so we didn't need to transfer that. Having said that, we do expect on the expense side to be about $2.6 million ahead of budget for the year. That number did get better than last month. We continue to see positive variances in payroll and benefits. We're filling positions later than they had budgeted. And also in the grievance adjudication line, we're just not seeing the activity we had originally budgeted for. So we expect that to play out for the rest of the fiscal year. And those continue to be the two main drivers of the positive variance in the projection. All the other expense categories, well, not all of them, but most of them expect to be also ahead of budget for the rest of the fiscal year. And the contribution projection for the rest of the year hasn't changed much since last month. We do expect to be about $55.6 million ahead of budget. We do monitor that closely with the actuaries, and actually in the next month or so, we should be getting some updated data analysis from them, and we'll be updating the projection accordingly based on the latest contribution revenue that will be coming in. The current month is January, So by the end of next week, we'll be getting all the contribution revenue that was attributable to the fourth calendar quarter of 2023, and also benefit payments going out the door. We'll also be getting updated activity on that and adjusting any of the projections appropriately at that time. Two things I want to mention. I referenced that the budget process for last year was almost about 9-10 months ago, which means, guess what? It's going to be coming up again in a couple of months. So at the March meeting, we'll be going over the first draft of the fiscal year 2025 budget. So we look forward to presenting that to you at that time. And also, I just wanted to mention that the audit RFP is underway, as we had mentioned at prior meetings, and that is on schedule so far. We've got questions from potential vendors. We've responded to them, and we just recently got proposals from some vendors. And so we're currently determining if we need interviews or not based on the proposals. We're pretty sure we are going to go forward with interviews for them, and that'll be happening in the next few weeks. Can't say much more than that at this time, as the process is still underway, but we'll certainly update everybody on the results of that once they are complete. That is what was going on for the month of December. Does anybody have any questions?
I had a quick question, and
Yes,
I
hon.
apologize if you explained this and I missed it. But I thought that one of your slides showed that the benefit contributions coming in were $1.5 million or $1.6 million less than was budgeted, and I was just wondering if there was a reason, or it was just an anomaly for this month, or not really an anomaly.
Oh, you're talking about the benefits that were paid?
I thought it was benefit contribution. I thought it was contributions coming in were less than
Oh, no, well,
anticipated.
well, all right, you know what? I'll bring that back up again. Yes, so contributions coming in were about $1.5 million less than budgeted. So we are seeing for the month of December. So for the month of December, we did see that track less than what was expected. For year to date, we are $300,000 better than budget. So we're pretty much at budget now year to date where we expect contributions to be. Like I mentioned, the fourth quarter contributions, the bulk of them will be coming in next week. So based on that activity, we will determine if we need to adjust our projections going forward based on that activity. But so far through the year, we're right about where we expect to be.
Okay, so that answers my question. So if we were to see another month or 2 months where there was a downward trend, we'd need to start to dig into kind of what was happening, because it doesn't intuitively make sense given all the outreach that's been going on, but there could be some, dampening on wages or employment or something like that. So I guess we'll just monitor it as you always do. But thank you for responding to my question.
No, you're welcome. And next month, like I said, that's when the 85-90% of the contributions come in for the quarter, because everybody pays in the last week, if not the last business day, which is when the payroll providers like to do it, because the float is part of their business model. So at that time, we'll compare the contributions that came in for the quarter compared to what we expected. And so if it's less than what we expected, we'll do a deeper dive, determine why. If it's significantly less than what we expected at that time. But, for now, it's been, been so far so good in terms of year-to-date activity for the first quarters of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does
Anyone else?
anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, Mike.
So we had requested for some additional bond funds to be released, and as I recall, the meeting where that was supposed to be addressed, it didn't get addressed. Is that any new developments on when those bond funds, when there might be a vote on the release of more bond funds for us?
So I'll start and then anyone else can jump in. We had originally made a request to have additional bond funds released to us. That request did not make it onto the December bond commission meeting. As a result of that, we did some internal review. We looked at the bond funds that we'd already received and the projects that we have kind of ongoing and are at this point now looking to see sort of using up what we already have and making sure that that's kind of before we ask for anything else, which was one of the requests that had been made to us, was to say, well, you still have funds in your account, why are you asking for more? So we're looking to use up what we've already been allocated. And then if we make a determination that we have another kind of tranche of bond funds that we would like to receive, we will submit a new request. The commission meets sporadically. So it's, they set up a monthly calendar, but then tend to meet really basically quarterly. So for example, there was a commission meeting on the calendar for January, but that got canceled. So I think it really, part of the art is kind of trying to assess when they're going to meet and trying to match your timing to their timing. And that is something that every agency does. And we all try to fit it in. And so we'll come back again once we have sharpened our pencils.
All right, thanks.
Any additional questions? All right, I don't see any. All right, so is there any old business that anybody would like to discuss? Any new business? All right, well, we had a brief meeting this morning, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries and the meeting is adjourned at 9:20 a.m. Have a nice day, everyone, and try to stay dry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.